all got a chance to listen to our podcast yesterday. In case you haven't, then it's up on the Facebook page as well as on our individual Facebook pages. So I'll take you through the strategy, and Stanley will explain to you more about how do you exactly measure, or what are the metrics for each individual medium. So before we start, we'd just like to have a word from our leader. And social media isn't measurable. It's just is not an excuse anymore, right? Or it's that's what most people say, and that's what most traditional advertisers say. The Economist puts it really well. If you are measuring social media, you're going to discover that unfiltered, brutal, honest nature of your online discussion, as well as you can spot trends. You can see what consumers really think about your brand. So I'm going to touch on three aspects: the why, the how, and the what. So why do we measure the social media thing? We spoke about this a little earlier. Traditional forms of advertising are no longer as relevant today. The consumers don't want to listen to you. They don't want to listen to one-sided marketing messages. They are creating their own stuff. They have their own blogs out there. They talk. They put their own opinions up. They select what kind of mediums or which brands they want to listen to. They select whom they want to hear and where do they want to be at in terms of marketing messages. And most importantly, in terms of feedback, they want marketeers now to pay attention. We've already spoken about most of this in our other classes. Besides for us as a marketer or as a brand, there are certain tangible benefits by measuring social media. Of course, some of the important ones are we reassure that consumers are being heard. We can really identify who our brand influencers are. And this takes us back to the case we just discussed right now. We are able to reach our target market a lot quicker. Of course, improve customer service. We saw this in the United case, crisis management, gather brand perceptions, and I'll touch upon that a little later in the presentation. And of course, get feedback from new product development. So how do we really measure the social media thing? We spoke about success a little earlier, and I'm going to tell you a little more about it here. You can't have a social media strategy without defining a goal. These goals are more like outpost markers that once you reach something, you know that you are fairly successful in your social media campaign. So I'm not going to go through each example because I'm going to give you a comprehensive example at the end, but define your goals very clearly. What do you really want to measure? Right? Don't measure anything. It just increase in number of followers is not a goal. It has to tie into a business context that you are striving to achieve with your strategy, with your business strategy. And in order to do that, you need to know the relevant metrics you want to measure. And of course, beware of the fragmentation, because there's a lot of social media out there. There's a lot of different metrics you can measure. You don't need to measure every single one. You need to know whether you want brand awareness, brand retention, or you really want ROI. So we spoke about success earlier. It's not just increase in number of followers. It's not attention necessarily. It could be, it's not necessarily. And it's more than just boosting sales. So we also just spoke about this. It's about success here in social media, in measuring social media, is actually measuring the metrics that you set out to measure, and of course achieving your goals as you go along the way. So success is meeting goals. Now, step 2 is define success metrics. There are a bunch of them that you can use. I've just thrown a few up here. Again, we have to measure these metrics based on what's your business strategy and then what goals have you set. Is your business strategy to increase brand awareness? Then you set certain goals of how many comments, how many people are commenting on a certain post, and then you measure per day, per week, per month, and that could be your method to go about it. So what is it that we are measuring again? And this is where I'm going to take you into some of the more core metrics. There are three basic metrics that we measure, or there are three basic buckets of metrics that we measure. One is measure exposure, you measure influence, and you measure engagement. Now what do these mean? Measure exposure is you actually measure how many people you're reaching out to. So the number of Facebook fans, the number of Twitter followers, the number of people following your blog. You see how big is your network. And The one thing you got to be aware here is that you don't repeat, because people could be on Facebook and Twitter and blogs and following your brand. That doesn't mean that you have 3 followers. It means you have just 1 follower, right? So you just have to be careful about the reputation. That is a little hard in terms of exposure. In terms of influence, it's the softer side of the metrics. Are they saying good things about your brand? Are they saying bad things? And I think there are a lot of different tools to measure this. Danny and Josh will touch upon some of those today. Is the overall sentiment positive? There's a really good tool called Social Mentions. If you type in any brand that you wish, it'll tell you that it's really on a good side, a bad side, is it a neutral brand. And the most important, and most of the time you have at least one of the engagement metrics in your social media strategy is measuring, not only is measuring the amount of times, how fast the message spreads across and how many people are actually talking. And this is more of a number metric rather than just a subjective metric. So I call them the whole brain metric, so it's not me, but this is the term that is being used out there. It's easier to classify the metrics in quantitative and qualitative, and you actually measure it based on 3 criteria. It's the activity, the interactivity, and the returns. So the activity and interactivity metrics are more brand awareness or brand followers, and then the returns is actually getting down to the ROI, and that will also be touched upon a little later today. So activity could be the quantitative aspects could be the number of posts, the update frequency, in terms of the qualitative comments, and this is not the comments, this is the comments you initiate as a brand or you as a marketer for a particular brand will initiate. Whereas the interactivity is the audience responses. What are they speaking with each other? How many comments? Are they generating similar comments? Are there multiple conversations happening? There's a bunch of quantitative and qualitative metrics for interactivity, and of course the returns is where you actually get down to judging if it has led to any leads. There are sales, customer service, and if you ran a promotion, what was the conversion rate? You can also learn a lot, and that's from the returns is the right brain metrics critical. You can learn about your success stories, and there will be learnings in terms of customer feedback, product development, and things of that sort. So I just wanted to put up a quick example, and this is the last thing that I will touch upon today. Is I just put down some campaign objectives out there and certain goals, and now these are not standard, these could change. So say for example you want to build brand loyalty and trust. The goal could be X amount of positive conversation about your product or company per week, and the metrics that's the goal. You say I want 200 positive conversations about my product per week. And the metrics that you measure is the number of products that a number of conversations happening per day, per hour. Are they positive? Are they negative? And then the amount of conversation that each of those conversations generate. So did you have to intervene, or did it just go on by itself? Similarly, if you take the third one, increase in store sales, I could say that the goal could be X amount of increase in sales by XYZ date, and the X percentage of increase in footfalls. You could measure the increase in sales and store traffic before and after a particular promotion, and the number of people who heard about the promotion from social media via a feedback mechanism like an in-store quick survey, or through at the billing counter, as how many people came in here with that. So there are 2 more out there that I'll let you read, and this presentation is also on SlideShare. So I'll be posting it in the break as soon as the class is over, and the video will be up on YouTube today. So, questions?
I'll break it open. How would you say that this is different from the measurements of traditional media?
In traditional media, the measurements here, I feel here, it's different in terms of, because you don't measure what you put out there. It's also, you have to integrate the measurement of what people are saying, and a lot of subjective talk that in terms of qualitative metrics, which you would not really get in traditional media. You would not know a person looking at a TV ad what they're thinking. That's where I feel the real value comes in terms of social media metric measurement. So that's how it's different.
So it's not different, it's just more.
It's more, yes.
quiet for me today, too.
When you're doing some quantitative evaluation around social media, how do you break it apart, whether it's positive time being spent engaging with the product, or whether it's negative?
Okay, so as I said, there actually are tools that do this for you, and a lot of them are free that you can check. Now, how those tools work is they basically work based on the words. They have a few keywords. Like, for example, if you put, so I say, oh, I'm ran into Starbucks but not feeling too good. It may be taken as a negative connotation for Starbucks. There are certain tools that are really good at judging the words, but there are certain tools that are free that are not really good. So you may not really mean something for a brand. They basically judge it on the words, like keywords like ugly, beautiful, great, bad. That is part of the program, I guess. And when you type in, you use one of these tools. It just depends on how good these tools are. Certain companies have really great tools, and they actually, I can show it to you real time. If you go to socialconnections.com and just put in Starbucks, you can actually see every single comment over the last week and how positive it has been, how negative, or is it just a neutral comment, just said that I got my latte at Starbucks today. That's a pretty neutral comment. But I got a great latte at Starbucks today, it could be a positive comment. So that's how they really measure.
I'll be going into that a lot of detail in the interview with NetBase. We'll go into specifically how some technology, some paid technology works. Just saying.
So, Rick, if I was to pull away one big message from this, I guess it would be that you...
And the measurable metrics.
Which one?
The goals, you need to have goals. If you don't have goals, you just be out there measuring all kinds of metrics.
So what are some of the... So the goals that you gave then were the three kinds: exposure, influence, and engagement.
Right.
So those are
the types of
metrics.
metrics you
So what are the goals that match up with
the
those?
goals would be, for example, if I take this slide, it's you need outposts. So you need measurable benchmarks that if I reach X amount of XYZ, I am heading towards success in a overall strategic
So these
marketing
kind of
message.
link up. These objectives kind of link up with the discussion that we just had about the different kinds of ways of increasing sales. There's short-term sales and there's long-term sales. They don't always go together. There's existing customer sales, there's new customer sales. There's retention sales, and then there's larger basket sales. And then there's just brand strength, kind of. As the brand grows stronger, you get sort of all these things happening.
There's a concept of the funnel. So I think at the end of the funnel, you really measure ROI at the end. It's more the awareness and the influence that is up there, exposure, engagement, and then you measure the ROI.
And I think you're already. And is this original? This chart? This is from you, or this is?
This is something I put together.
I think
I got one of them from the net, and then I thought up a few more.
We're already getting more systematic than most of the stuff that's out there on social media marketing already. By thinking about it in this way, where we're starting to unpack specific objectives, I think I read everything that comes out on this practically, or a lot of the things that come out on it. And most of it is so general. It's Facebook's out there and you have to be on. Twitter's out there and you need to have a presence, you need to have a voice. But this isn't telling me that. This is saying something very different, which is, what are you trying to achieve? If you want to achieve this, then here's how you would go about measuring it. And then from there, we would go back into what would what would make sense in terms of being able to achieve that.
And I think Stanley will touch upon specific points, whether what you can get out of Twitter, what you can get out of Facebook, what you can get out of blogs.
Great, that's a perfect segue. Thank you.